It's got the green light. There we go. Hi, I'll say it again. Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. It is 6. This is when we normally start. However, we don't have a quorum. So we can't conduct our business without that. We're missing one member. We're under the impression that individual is on his way and will be here soon. So apologize to everybody for the tardy beginning. Hopefully it will be a good ending, though. What I can say is while we're waiting, if you would like to speak tonight, we'd love to hear from you. That's super important to get people's opinion on the record. Therefore, to do that, there's some blue speaker cards in the back table there. So we would encourage everybody to fill one of those out and just bring it forward to our clerk, and when the public comment period is open for that, then we'll read off your name.
Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of today, Wednesday, February 22nd. Personally, I apologize for being late. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and Dr. Gary McCacken will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can we please call the roll? Or non-Madam Secretary? Okay, sorry.
Step in for that. Chair McCann,
Here.
Commissioner Crandall,
Here.
Commissioner Cosgrove,
Here.
Commissioner McCacken,
Here.
and the other three commissioners are absent this evening.
Thank you. Next order of business, special presentation, recognition of Commissioner Bart Crandall. Do you have something to say, or?
Yes, I can give a brief introduction, and then I think we'll get feedback from all of our, or any of our commissioners who would like to comment. I know there's some other staff who would like to comment as well, but as a brief introduction, a couple of years ago, our city council underwent a process to appoint new planning commissioners, and through that process, and subsequent to that, Bart Crandall was selected as the chair, and for those who don't know, he's been on our planning commission for years before that, serving on our design review subcommittee as well. So over that time, he was able to bring in his experience and knowledge from those past years, from experience on the general plan advisory committee and work in that regard as well to assist the new commissioners and really be a great leader and liaison for the commission and for the staff. So we have a plaque today to acknowledge him, and we'll have Commissioner Crandall come down to the front and take a photo in a minute. But first, I just wanted to begin by reading one letter from a commissioner who's not able to be present tonight, and then I'd like to turn it over to anyone else who has additional things to say. So the first letter I'd like to read is from our Commissioner Karen Prescott Loeffler. Dear fellow Planning Commission members, due to my absence this evening, I've asked that my comments be read in appreciation and acknowledgement of Commissioner Bart Crandall's valued contributions as the past chairman. As a newly appointed commissioner, I relied on Chairman Crandall's leadership and experience. He set a positive and productive tone that allowed us to be mindful of our history, strategic issues of the present, and future possibilities that would forever shape our Spanish Village by the Sea. Under his direction as chairman, critical questions as well as thought-provoking discussion and engagement were encouraged. Because of his pivotal role at the beginning, he set the standard for heartfelt service to our community, which I believe each of us aspires to. Thank you for your past and continued leadership, wisdom, and most of all, integrity. It is both an honor and a pleasure to serve with you and the entire Planning Commission. Warmest regards, Commissioner Prescott Loeffler. So now I'd like to turn it over if there's any other commissioners who have anything to say, and then I do think we have a couple of staff members who'd like to comment as well.
Go ahead.
I serve with Bart on the design review, and also that is our Cultural Heritage Committee. And Mr. Crandall here, quite knowledgeable about our historical buildings. He's got a good handle on our charm of the San Clemente, what makes it charming, and keeps us, I think, within the rails. And I certainly look to him for his guidance and his knowledge, and I really enjoy working with him on design review. We have, I think, made a lot of good impact on projects coming through the city. But at the end of the day, we're all just volunteers. We want to do the right thing for our community. We're just doing our public service here. And that's really what Bart embodies. He's just a true public servant. He's not looking for recognition. This is, I'm sure, very uncomfortable for him actually right now. So, but since we're taking the time, I wanted to just share that. Thanks.
I'd second those comments. I think Bart brings a lot of historical perspective to this commission, and I rely heavily on that from his past experience of sitting here so long. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, Bart, I think that what Jonathan explained regarding Bart's contribution to the city is massively understated. He served on the Planning Commission for approximately 12 years, I don't know exactly. He's been chairman numerous times. The current Planning Commission, about 18 months ago, was reconfigured. There's 7 of us, there's supposed to be 7 of us every night, and there was 6 of us newbies and Bart. So Bart was kind of like, leading the pack, obviously. He served as chair and really, showed us the ropes, and he continues to be a tremendous wealth and resource for the city. Like was mentioned, he serves on the Design Review Subcommittee. That's where they work with applicants to kind of massage their project to get it looking right and how it should and how we want it to. Bart had a distinguished career as an architect, and so he brings a wealth of knowledge to that task on the Design Review Subcommittee. He's super knowledgeable, as stated, always with the highest integrity, willing to share. I agree, he's probably very uncomfortable right now. We just could not say enough great things. Thank you so much for your service, Bart. Was there some staff members that had something to share?
I'll go first. Hi, Cecilia Gallardo Daly, Community Development Director. Bart, I just want to say thank you for your commitment and your dedication. The city has benefited, the staff has benefited, I personally have benefited from your expertise, from your knowledge, and from your love of this community, and it shows, and you really left your mark on San Clemente. If we look at all of our best examples and the landmarks in San Clemente, most recent ones, they definitely reflect your expertise and your commitment. So thank you very much. I'm going to miss you.
Not leaving, is he?
Not leaving, though, just recognition, but still.
Adam?
Thank you, Chair McCann. Adam Matamian, Deputy Community Development Director. Bart has been on an advisory body to the City Council as long as I've worked for the city, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to work with Bart over the past 12 years related to planning projects, and I have always been very, very impressed with the work and especially the work ethic that you bring to this position. I've been able to rely on your historic knowledge multiple times, and the city is just blessed to have you provide your input and your leadership on the Planning Commission. We appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you for your time and your service.
So with that, we do have a special presentation of a plaque, so Commissioner Crandall can now take a hammer home with him. So if I could ask you to come down to the front, we'll present that and then take a quick photo. And Commissioners, if I could have you join as well.
Okay.
Yeah, how'd you know?
Certainly appreciate this, but I was lucky when I, 2 years ago, to get a planning commission where everybody worked together. It was easy. There was no conflict of personalities. Everybody wanted to learn, and the planning commission started with one oldie and 6 new people, and in 2 years, it's functioning fantastic. So, all members and to staff, and
Okay. And commissioners, yeah, if I can get you to come central.
not disturb. There we go.
Slide this way a little bit away from the podium.
Eileen should be in here too.
That's why she brought the
Eileen is our recording secretary, and she's been here longer than any of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for your patience for that well-deserved recognition. Moving on to the minutes, we have the minutes of the February 8th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Are there any members of the public here to speak on anything that is not on the agenda tonight? Now would be the time to talk about that. Seeing none. Moving on, we have no consent calendar items, no public hearings, so number 9, new business, Calle del Cerro bike lane and stop sign improvements. Do we have a staff report? Thank you.
So, good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Zach Ponson. I'm your acting Public Works Director / City Engineer. Tonight with me, I have Ryan Kim, our Senior Traffic Engineer. He'll be doing the presentation, and we'll both be here to answer any questions throughout the presentation and after the public comments. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Good evening. This presentation is to request to consider the forwarding the staff's recommendation to the City Council on the bike lane and stop sign installations for Calle del Cerro. City has upcoming pavement rehabilitation and slurry seal project. So through this project, staff investigated the options for reconfiguration of lane alignments to the best balance to streets for all users, including pedestrians and bicyclists. This is slide number 1. Up to here, because it's small, so I like to give you 3 different portions. Actually, Calle del Cerro has 3 different segments for different approaches, installation proposals. The first part is between the La Pata and Iglesia, which is here. We have 2 different types. In the west side, which is a southbound approach, we are proposing Class 2 bike lanes between those segments. And the green represents the Class 3 bike routes. And from Iglesia to the lower Avenida Vista Montana, where staff is proposing Class 2 bike lanes. And the third part between the lower Vista Montana to the Pico, we're proposing the Class 3 bike route. And for the intersection of the upper Avenida Vista Montana and Calle del Cerro, we're also proposing always stop signs, controls. Study number 2 shows the typical section with the proposed bike lanes on the Del Cerro. So on the left side, we'd like to have a 5 feet bike lanes and a 2 feet buffer zone and 11-foot travel lane and median and another 11 for the different, the other direction, we are proposing 11 feet wide travel lane, 2 feet buffer, and a 5 feet bike lane. Slide number 3 shows the intersection of the upper Montana and Del Cerro with proposal of the stop sign installations and advanced stop warning sign with a flashing beacon on top of it. Also, we are proposing new crosswalk on the Del Cerro. Regarding the always stop sign warrant study, staff collected traffic volume data on August last year and found the intersection did not satisfy the minimum volume criteria for always stop sign installations. However, as the highlighted part, staff found the location has a sight distance issues due to the horizontal and vertical curves at the intersection. Thus, always stop signs are recommended at this intersection for the highlighted portion C, which is locations where the road user, after stopping, cannot see the conflicting traffic and is not able to negotiate the intersection unless the conflicting cross traffic is also required to stop. I also like to share with you with photos. This is westbound Calle del Cerro toward upper Montana. As you see, it's a very limited sight distance and visual abilities. This is also eastbound Del Cerro toward upper Montana. Photo 3 shows the east direction view on the Montana at Calle del Cerro. This is also west direction view. So all the photo shows the intersection has a limited sight distance and supports always stop sign warrant. answer for tonight, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission? Commissioner Cosgrove?
Can you give me a brief summary of this UC Berkeley safe transportation study that they did?
Okay. Complete Street, UC Berkeley conducted a complete street safety assessment. And that report is not finalized yet, but it's draft. So we are still working on it. But the draft shows, recommends bicycle, class 2 bike lanes between the upper Montana to the La Pata. These portions, from La Pata to the upper Montana.
So I believe the Berkeley study also did propose a potential stop sign in it too, or at least to be evaluated. And so staff's taken that draft report and implementing what we can out of there, what we think we could find feasible. And so we will be bringing both this and the LRSP, a local roadway safety plan. We'll be bringing that to you guys in the next month or two.
Did they recommend an additional stop sign besides the one being proposed here? No?
No.
No more, okay. All right. But they did consider the entire distance of Cali de Cerro from La Plata all the way to Pico, the entire stretch of the street?
Yes.
Okay, including the downhill slope, the
Yes.
whole bit?
And a lot of
Okay.
what they do in their studies is kind of allowing us, just letting us know that there's a high accident rate at a certain section and stuff like that, and saying, here's the tools you can use to look forward to in your next time you're evaluating this street. So
Okay.
did they go out and do the full studies and the traffic counts? No. But they would do an accident analysis and say, what can you do? Find something to do to improve this area here. You might want to consider a stop sign analysis in this location.
Okay,
So
just
there's
this
a lot of
location?
recommendations of what we can look into while we're doing
Okay.
street assessments.
I want to, put on the record that I did travel the street on my bike to get the bike experience, and I did it many times, up and down, 12 miles total. And I can see concerns, not just at this intersection, but just that entire stretch down to Pico. It's a raceway. So I would like to know, can we consider additional measures besides just this on that street, such as an additional stop sign?
Stop
Just to
signs,
slow it down? Because unless you ride your brakes, you're not going to even get close to 35.
I mean, one issue with adding additional stop signs is we're looking for them where they're warranted. And so right now, I don't know if they're gonna be warranted at any of these other intersections. And putting them on a steeper grade is something have some concerns with. And so this is the flattest part of that roadway section. And so you don't want to put stop signs in as traffic and traffic calming. It's really supposed to be there to help with the intersection's flow of vehicles from that opposite direction.
Okay. Mike, I guess the area that I was thinking about is Camino Ibiza. It's a four-way intersection into different communities, and they are at the bottom of the hill. Obviously, traffic that's going eastbound is slower going, it's going uphill, but the traffic coming down has got a good head of steam on it. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be appropriate to consider that so that those residents that are trying to exit on the, I guess, I don't know what side of the street it is, but the opposite side of the health club, the inland side of it, to help them exit? Because you've got cars just streaming down, and it's just, to get out of that, even to make a right turn would be difficult. And it would be a side benefit to slow people down too.
So one of the things I'd recommend is, per our traffic calming resource manual, we would look at our other tools first. On a hillside street such as this, we'd probably look at something like an electronic speed feedback sign first, before
Right.
going to that more extreme measure of a stop sign that's technically not even in our manual for traffic calming or speed reduction. And so, you know, so right now, our staff's recommendation is gonna stay with the single stop sign up above at the flatter section due to the line
Okay.
of sight, and the crest of that hill poses some concerns, especially for the Velagio 2 subdivision right there.
That's exactly why I was proposing this, is so that they could have a break.
So the Velagio 2 is the first one to the west of the proposed stop sign. And so,
And actually, I guess this would be would this be number one down at Camino Ibiza?
Aviza's, I believe, is number one.
Yeah.
But, so number 2 is up on the left where it's just one T intersection.
Yeah,
And so initially, my understanding is residents of that community have approached the city on and off over the years. And staff has always been reluctant to put any stop sign at a T intersection in the middle after a crest and on a steep hill. So this has been looked at a number of times over the years. So our solution, I think, is following that Berkeley study and the LSRP of looking to see what we can do up above at that flatter section, where there is that crest that should slow down the travelers also, especially near the Velagio too. The project in itself will be narrowing the drive lanes down to 11 feet, which should serve as some traffic calming also. And so if we did want to go any additional measures, I'd recommend potentially the
The
electronic speed
the sign.
sign, at least on the downhill. I don't know if it's.
for sure on the downhill, yeah.
And so that's.
As you know, I like those signs, because I think they do remind people you're going too fast.
And that is something you can put in your recommendation. If it is, it might be something that goes as a second phase of the project, though. Because right now, we've got this street ready to be starting to be paved. And the line items in here are contemplating what we've proposed. And so adding an electronic speed sign might be something that have to come on another.
Is that because of
next
budget?
year's street projects, they'd have to come back to the street.
I
just to add
see.
the sign.
Is that because of budget, or why is that?
Budget, and we're not gonna put a budget in the project of stuff that we're not proposing at that time. So we can't do a line item for every little what-if option of a project that could be approved. So what we're doing tonight is, we know Del Cerro's getting re-asphalted. They just redid the medians, we just redid the trees. So this is our time to reconsider of adding a bike lane. And so per our bicycle and pedestrian master plan, we're supposed to be looking to, can we add these bicycle facilities whenever we're repaving a street?
Yeah, okay. I have a couple more I want to just get through here, because I know a lot of people want to speak. So, do we restrict trucks on Cali de Cerro?
There is a vehicular code section that does prohibit trucks going up that section.
Okay.
Of that-
But
of that
La
street.
Plata, they can go into the business park?
So they're supposed to be using the La Plata section for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they are restricted by what? Just no trucks, or what, is it weight, or what's the restriction based on?
There is a sign at the Pico and Del Cerro saying that the 4-ton or above cannot access that Del Cerro.
So, okay, and, all right,
No trucks over 4 tons.
okay. The other thing is the Class 3 bike trails, which means they're sharing the road with the car, and versus bike, Class 2, which is they're behind a white stripe. In your case, you have a 2-foot buffer. So let's take the lower end. Are you just suggesting the 2 right lanes for the shared bike lane only? Because there are 2 lanes at the bottom, going in each direction. So is the Class 3 on all lanes, or just the most right lanes?
It'll be just the exterior lanes.
Okay.
So the slow lanes in each direction. And just to kind of follow up on that, there's not enough right-of-way to get in a buffered bike lane without taking one of those lanes also. Or completely removing the median, which would go against some of our other policies in the city. So the city's adopted pedestrian and bicycle master plan does call for the lower section, I'll call it, to be a Class 3. So we're actually are implementing a council-approved pedestrian and bicycle master plan.
And we're going to highlight it really well so people understand they're sharing the road.
And that's part of today's society, is that's why, right now, those bicycles are allowed to use those lanes. And so the signage on the street, on the post, will help educate those drivers of those bicycle rights. And right now, I do believe a new state law just started that bicycles have to yield and change lanes when possible to go around a bicyclist. And so most studies show that they don't want the bicyclist up on the curb when they're trying to share a lane, because those vehicles don't go over. So it's actually safer for the bicyclist to ride near the middle of that lane.
Okay. Last question concerns many of the residents' written comments. I read them. There's almost 30, over 30 submitted written comments, which I think are fantastic. I was happy to read them. I'm glad people are engaged. However, I was very concerned to read about vehicular crashes into homes, and wanted you to explain what you think is going on there, and has enough corrective measures been implemented to prevent that, or minimize, or, to the degree that we can, and prevent that in the future.
Ultimately, there have been 2 recent accidents at that intersection. I'll try to limit a little bit what I say in case there's litigation, but my understanding is both were related to drunk drivers that
Okay.
just ignored the stop sign completely on one case.
Gotcha. So we have reflectors there now. You think that's adequate?
I'm not gonna, I shouldn't comment on something if it's adequate or not. It's not a requirement to have a buffer at every T intersection. there
Understood.
is. And
But since
so-
we have a history there, just something to consider, we should be mindful.
One thing that intersection used to have was mature trees that were just inside the HOA's property line. And I'm not sure who, when, or where, but those trees were cut down right before that accident. And so if those trees were there, that might not have happened.
Yeah,
And so that is something, if the HOA is, has a concern, that is something they can reestablish, especially if those trees were removed for ocean views or something like that.
okay,
And so the right-of-way of that area is only 5 feet behind the curb face.
right.
So there's very limited ability to put in a K-rail, especially if we were ever to continue sidewalk in that neighborhood. And
I like
so-
the tree idea, and the HOA has that under their control.
And they do have a little bit of room in there if they wanted to put in their own barricade too.
Okay,
And so staff's recommendation at this point is, I mean, you can recommend whatever you guys want, but at the same time, staff's recommendation is, we're gonna leave it as what it is with that.
but one of the improvements, do I understand it correctly, one of the improvements is to add a sign on Montana that has stop sign ahead with a yellow flashing light? That'll be an addition, so that's new.
I-
Do I understand that
We have
correctly?
a stop sign ahead sign now, so as indicated on this, the slide above, that one will have a flasher. And so all 3 directions will have a flashing light
Okay.
on there.
Okay,
And so this sign itself, we're going to move a little bit closer to the intersection so that the flash is potentially not in that home's view.
Right.
To be perfectly honest, so we'll put it a little bit closer to the intersection since that flash will be going,
sure,
yeah,
okay. That's it, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and by the way, for the members of the public, you will get your chance to speak, because I saw a hand or 2 go up. You'll get your chance. If you want to speak, make sure you fill out a speaker card. Right now, we're asking questions, and then you will get your chance to speak. So, did you have comments?
Yeah, I think I have 3, possibly 4. Zach, can you, real quickly for the public and who might be watching on TV also, the difference between 1, 2, 3 bike lanes?
Good question, actually. When you have a Class 1, it's separated completely from that bicycle way, but from that roadway. Think El Camino Real down at the PCH area where we have a buffered and it's a fully separated bike lane. Class 2, what we're recommending for majority of Del Cerro is a painted buffer. We're recommending a 2-foot hatched thick white line striping that'll buffer that separated bike lane. When you get into Class 3, it's a shared bike lane that'll have kind of what we call sharrows painted into the asphalt and signage on the road that the bicyclist may legally use that entire lane. And the signage is out there to basically let the drivers know that that bicyclist is out there. And then Class 4 is one you won't see in town very often, but it's a modified version of Class 1. For the most part, you'll see Class 1, 2, and 3 in town.
And there is, for the public also, a good document in city archives on the bicycle master plan that gives you a good heads up of what the options are. We all did receive copies of the letters that were received by staff. And Zach, can you summarize in general what the comments were? Or are there just too many to do it? I'm thinking of the people on TV that haven't had the opportunity to see.
No, it's a good question. I think we did receive about 30 comments from the public. A vast majority of them are in support of adding a stop sign at this location and whatever bike lanes we can get in. We did receive a number of requests that now that we're in the area, let's go over to Montana and add stop signs, or let's add stop signs at every intersection. That's not something that staff's going to recommend tonight. But in general, most applicants seemed like they appeared in favor of the project. There was a couple opposed to it that had some concerns of, one of them for backing up of vehicles at the stop sign, especially in the uphill direction. I don't believe staff has that concern that there's amount of volume of that much traffic on Del Cerro that would cause a backup of traffic under normal circumstances.
Okay, and my next one is for Mal. I mean, we can get emotional about it and do whatnot and make recommendations and so forth, but if they are contrary to the engineering standards we're following and using as guidance to design these things, are we increasing the city's liability?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, very good. And then, has there been any updates or changes with the electric bikes? I mean, one good thing is they've all got disc brakes, so they stop well going downhill, much better than the old bikes, but they can also go uphill pretty fast. Is that changing anything, or is everything still working?
It's not going to change any of our recommendations on it. There was some consideration on the downhill of should we have the downhill side be a Class 3 due to the ability of bicycles, especially e-bikes, being able to even go faster. But reality is they obviously shouldn't be going faster than 35. So that's why we're still recommending that Class 2 bike lane on the downhill side. Our bicycle and pedestrian master plan actually says the Class 2s are okay up to 35 mile an hour speed limits.
And that's the end of my questions at this time.
Thank you. Dr. McCacken, any
Have you
questions?
this time?
I have a couple. Out of curiosity, how/why was this proposal initiated?
It's a little bit before our time. I've been with the city a long time, but previous complaints to our traffic department regarding what you see on the screen here is Velagio 2, a request of a stop sign and crosswalks there. And then when the city was awarded a grant through the Berkeley study, our traffic engineers at the time also said, is there stuff we can do with Del Cerro due to the complaints that we were getting? And so right now, we're in front of you because we're about to pave it. And so they're going to start, they may have even started the concrete work for some of those things. So we're going to add 40 feet of sidewalk on the left. Doesn't require your permission. We're going to do that anyway. It might be happening next week if it's not already started. So the contractor's already out there, and when we are out there, we're just trying to, can we squeeze in the bike lane while we're at it? So we have a little bit of time still to analyze this. We're a little bit before our Berkeley study and the LSRP study, but we don't want to miss this opportunity to pave it correctly of what we think is going to be our recommendation anyway. So we looked at those draft studies, utilized the information that they gave us, and did our own analysis of it. And like Ryan said, technically, the stop sign doesn't meet the warrant for the amount of volume coming out of, vehicles coming out of Montana. But we do have a potential line of sight issue, especially if cars are going a little bit above that speed threshold that they should be going. And that's where you start getting into that intersection conflict area up there.
Okay, thank you. And then also, why specifically are we adding that crosswalk?
It was part of the Berkeley analysis.
Okay,
And the request from the public on it too. We could remove the crosswalk and you could still cross there. And so it doesn't have to be a marked crosswalk. So technically you can cross at any intersection. Actually, with new state law, you're allowed to cross anywhere. So there's a reason, like we've said on previous projects, of not putting crosswalks mid-block at uncontrolled, unstopped signs, no lights. We don't want crosswalks in those because they lead to a false sense of security.
right.
And so if you did have concerns on that, it doesn't have to be a marked crosswalk, but that's our recommendation tonight. That followed some of our discussions with the Berkeley group.
Okay, thank you. No further questions? Okay. Now we will hear from members of the public. Keep in mind you have a 3-minute time limit. We will be policing it up here, so if you go long, we're going to cut you off, so please pace your comments appropriately. You can keep your eye on the ironic green, yellow, red signal up there. What's the yellow signal, like 30 seconds to go? Okay. If you're really concerned, you might want to set your own timer so you can kind of see your countdown on your phone. But first up, we will hear from Catherine Dieter, followed by Courtney Morrow.
Am I on?
You are, but your 3 minutes has not started yet.
Okay.
When you start, it starts.
Okay, great. Hi, first time coming to one of these planning meetings. Great, you guys are all doing great work, and I'll take the time out of my time to tell you that. It seems like you're doing a great job. One thing that I think was missed is the connections to the Ridgeline Trail in this area. So I noticed that wasn't mentioned at all, so I did want to bring that to everyone's attention. So past the stop sign, but before La Pata, there are the termination of the Ridgeline Trail on one side of this road, and it starts on the other. So you have bikes that need to access those areas, for those that are brave enough to bike in that area. I appreciate that you're brave enough. I'm not. I'm a biker. I won't bike in this area. I don't feel safe. I don't even think this will make me feel safe. What I am is a runner in this area, and that's why I'm here. So I run this area, and it's a disaster, right? We need the crosswalk. We need as much safety as we can. There are a lot of neighborhoods in this area. I live in Richmond Point, which is unfortunately an island in here. There's no way to get out of Richmond Point safely. There's no crosswalks and no all-way stops anywhere. So you have to frogger across the road to get out and to get to those Ridgeline trails, which I try to do every day. I see others trying to do it with strollers, with dogs, with people just running across. So I'm definitely in favor of this stop sign here. It's important for all of these communities to be able to access the beautiful Ridgeline Trail in that area, and for bikes too, for those that are brave enough. And then I'm the one that sent the message saying, let's go to Montana. And I hope to be back here soon talking about that. I'm particularly concerned about Vista, Montana and Calais Pastadero, which is over here. Apparently Pastadero intersection 2 spots on Vista, Montana. I didn't realize that. It goes through the apartments. But on the top portion, it's a big intersection there. There's only one stop sign, and downhill traffic on Vista, Montana is a completely blind curve. So one day I was running out there, I stop, a police officer actually stops in his vehicle. They're trying to cross, and he's looking at me because I'm dressed like a parking cone, because that's how I have to run in this area, and bright colors. So he looks over at me and looks up the road, and he almost gets hit trying to come out and turn left there. It's a completely blind crest coming down Vista, Montana. This is another collector road in this area, and I definitely want a stop sign and these flashing stop sign aware that I was unaware of. Anything we can get there to get people to be able to safely cross. And I'll give the rest of my 30 seconds to someone else. That's all I have. Thank you all for your great work.
Thank you. And I've been informed that the yellow light means a minute to go, not 30 seconds.
Good evening.
Courtney Morrow, followed by Christy Newhausen.
Hello, my name is Courtney Morrow, and I'm here to share my support for the proposed stop signs and bike lanes along Calle del Cerro. I live in Harborview, and I am acutely aware of this intersection. I travel through Upper Vista, Montana, and Calle del Cerro multiple times a day. I believe that, there are a number of issues that stop signs and bike lanes can solve that will inevitably slow speeding cars that often cut through Rancho San Clemente to and from the industrial park. I think that's a very big issue that doesn't really get addressed. I think for the most part, if you're a resident, you know that that grade is pretty steep, whether you're going up or down it, and you need to slow down for those turns. But what I've seen is, because I'm on that upper, when I'm coming up Calle del Cerro and go right on Vista, Montana, that is second to last, like residential stop next. The next would be left to the apartments. And people just, they go so fast, and they're cutting through Calle del Cerro to avoid the lights on Pico to get to La Pata or go to the business park and cut up that way. So I think adding those stop signs will naturally slow the flow of traffic in that area. There are 3 neighborhoods along Calle del Cerro. There's not one crosswalk. There's not a sidewalk on the, north side of Del Cerro. And now with the introduction of Lifetime, there's a lot more people coming into this area between people passing through and people going to Lifetime. It's just simply not safe. You spend any little bit of time, you will see people running across that like so quickly. And there's lots of trails, but there's just no safe way to cross Calle del Cerro. I think allowing for safer crossing between the neighborhoods in the Rancho San Clemente community and promoting safe access for bikes and e-bikes. Let's be real, e-bikes are the way that a lot of people travel around here, and it's a good option, it really is, but it needs to be done safely. Let's see, I think that's really kind of it. Please vote in favor of this agenda item. I think it's a good first stop, and I know the work that Christy has put into this, and it's much needed. It's been 20 years in this community, and it's about time we make it safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Christy Newhausen, followed by Kurt Newhausen.
Before I start, I sent pictures. Are you able to put them up, please? Yeah, just the first one is great. Thank you. Good evening. First, thank you, Mr. Ponson, for all of your time the past few years working on us with this. The community of Villaggio 2 is requesting an all-way stop sign at the intersection of Calle del Cerro and Vista, Montana, along with the crosswalk for Villaggio 2 residents to cross safely over Del Cerro. Would you also consider a lane light crosswalk system that is activated by a push button to ensure the cars see the pedestrians that want to cross the street? Also, I noticed on the diagram the traffic engineering department has placed 2 yellow flashing beacons out of the 3 stop signs. So the one heading east, there's not a yellow beacon. I'm not sure if you mentioned you wanted to put one there. Please also include a yellow flashing beacon for a prominent stop sign at the northeast corner of Vista, Montana, at the intersection of Calle del Cerro as well. Just a side note, you mentioned increasing the city's liability, but what about the 100 car accidents and injuries over the past 20 years? I feel like we should be more worried about the public safety than the city's liability. Due to the nature of the very steep hill, the cars headed westbound on Calle del Cerro are driving beyond the speed limit and do not allow the residents of Villaggio 2 enough time to turn right or left onto Calle del Cerro. Next slide, please. I provided an accident report from the OC Sheriff's Department dating back from 2000 to present. There have been 96 documented accidents during this time period alone at these intersections. In 2015, the residents of Villaggio 2 were denied a safer intersection. Since then, there have been 39 documented accidents. In 2020, we started the process again, requesting a traffic study be completed on our intersection by Senior Traffic Engineer Nestor Mangohig, who no longer works for the city. 3 years have now passed, and there have been 13 accidents since 2020 that could have been easily avoided. Next slide, please. On January 12, 2021, a car landed into the backyard of a Villaggio 2 resident. And next slide. And only 6 weeks later, at a home 3 houses down, a second car landed into the bedroom of the resident's son. He was away at college when this happened, otherwise he may not have survived this terrible accident. Next picture, please. Would you consider a safety rail to be installed at the Vista Montana and Calle del Cerro intersection? The yellow diamond warning signs are not enough to keep cars from going into someone's yard. And as you can see, that one was had fell down because the car actually went over the bushes and knocked the sign down. So something has to be done to help protect these homes. A wall, a barrier, there's got to be something better than these yellow diamond signs that are barely into the ground. The proposal of bike lanes along Calle del Cerro is a great safety measure for kids on e-bikes. A lot of teens that live in Rancho San Clemente ride their bikes to San Clemente High School as a means for their transportation and other places. This would ensure that they get there safely instead of sharing the same lane with cars driving fast down our steep hill. By providing 2 simple stop signs and a crosswalk, you will save the lives of the
Thank you.
children and adults in our community. Thank you for your time.
Kurt Newhausen. Followed by Madison Newhausen.
Hi, my name is Kurt Newhausen. Basically, I want to thank this gentleman right here, Zach, who's presenting most of this information right now tonight. I couldn't agree more with almost everything he said as far as what's going on in this intersection. I don't have the nuts and bolts, and I don't know the policies and the planning of it. I just know the common sense factor of it. I've been a fireman for 20 years, and I've seen death at certain intersections. We are on borrowed time right now. You're going to have other witnesses come up here and tell you how every single morning you have to get, coming out of Calle Sol right there, you have to get as far as you can, get into the lane a little bit, lean forward in your car, look left, up the hill, and then you have to punch on the gas and hope a car's not coming. Even if no car is there and you punch it, half the time someone's gonna lay their horn on because they're going too fast, coming over the crest of that hill. I'd say you have about 1 second, hit or miss, to play Frogger if you're gonna cross the street, if you're being a pedestrian also. So not only do cars have an issue coming out of there, any person that is walking their dog to go to the 3 churches around here, all the parks, I coach football, I coach baseball, I meet kids at these parks, and my kid is 12, and I still kind of worry when I know he's going to cross the street to play with his friends. It seems common sense to me, but I know there's a lot more that you guys know as far as the planning and the actual schematics, the numbers, everything else, but it needs to be there. I live in that Calle Sol for 20 years, and it has been so apparent. I've been honked at coming out of there, even when there was no cars in sight. I've almost been in a couple collisions. One time I was measuring the distance, trying to figure out the apex. When you come over the top of that hill, how much time you have less than a second to make your mind up. And the day we were doing it, there was almost 2 accidents just in that half hour of time. I got it on video, actually. It was when we were trying to propose this a while ago. I just want you guys to just strongly consider that 1 stop sign, and there may be other ones that are needed. I don't want to take away from other residences, but that one by far is the most needed, and I can't see a reason to oppose safety, a stop sign that allows somebody to cross. And then furthermore, if you look at Calle Sol and you're coming out, to have a sidewalk for anybody who lives in there, just to walk up 50 yards safely on a sidewalk to cross the street to the proposed crosswalk would be fantastic. Lastly,
Thank you.
Laguna has a lot of those lights. maybe push a button, a little blink thing, be very helpful. Sorry, I don't have the right name for that.
Thank you. Next is Madison Newhausen, followed by Hudson Newhausen.
Good evening. My name is Madison Newhausen, and I am a resident of Bellagio 2. The intersection by my home is extremely dangerous. Please help improve its safety so I don't feel like I'm gonna get hit every time I exit the neighborhood. When I first started driving, my parents very early on enforced a rule that my brothers and I had to follow. We were forbidden to turn left out of the neighborhood. I was only permitted to make a right turn out of fear of getting hit. There have been countless times when I have almost gotten hit exiting my neighborhood from the cars speeding down the street. This is why I propose that a crosswalk and 2 stop signs be placed for the cars going west and east on Calle del Acero. Thank you.
Thank you. Hudson Newhausen, followed by Al Affolet.
Hi, my name is Hudson, and I'm a resident of Bellagio 2. Every time I go to cross the street to go to church or hang out with my friends, there are always cars flying down our hill. Please give us a crosswalk and a stop sign to ensure our safety before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Al Afflet.
Hi, my name is Al Afligi. I live in the Bellagio 2 community. I've lived there for over 20 years. Pretty much just reiterating what everyone's saying. You try to get out of Calle Sol, it's like the Indy 500. So every time I try to get out of there, just like Kurt was saying, you have to scoot, and just try to give yourself the best shot. But people are always speeding as they go downhill. So definitely we need a stop sign. There is litigation that is going on in the Bellagio 2 community, so I think this would help for further stuff down the line. I personally I would never ride my bicycle down that hill. I do ride my bicycle to get to the Ridgeline Trail, and I walk it across, I sit in the median. First I look, I run across, I sit in the median, I look, I walk my bike across again, and then I don't get on my bike until I get to the Ridgeline Trail. It's, as they said, it's really, cars are going super fast down and just as fast up. In fact, sometimes, yeah, it's just really bad. So I would definitely like you guys to put the stop sign in. I think we really need it. It's, and there, it's true, there is no crosswalk to get across. So it's, yeah, Frogger, it's exactly true. So anyways, just what everyone else said. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Rolls, followed by Jose Fernandez.
Thanks to Christy and everybody who's been doing this. Yes, I've been in that area for 20 years, and it's not just speeding that they're going through. I think the speed limit is like 35 or something. They're hauling buns down there. They're going like 45, 55 miles an hour. There is an area where I've also, with my kids, when they learn how to drive, they only were allowed to turn right, and they had to punch it, and they had the safety of that left-hand lane, as I often have to use. I'm punching my car, and we've got people hauling buns, and they're on your tail. You can use that safety lane possibly as if you were going to turn left, just to get them off your tail, and then so you can continue on down the thing. I mean, you've pointed out how dangerous it is. I'm curious, crosswalk. We have kids that go to Lobo, and we couldn't have them walk to Lobo ever because of lack of a crosswalk. My parents live in Montego. They also have a similar problem. I'm glad you brought that up for the rest of the hill, trying to turn left down there too. But at least my kids could walk to their house until I got home, or until they could drive our kids back to the house, because there's no crosswalks. It's not safe at all for them to do that. Last thing is, or two things, Montana is a raceway. So although you mentioned that there were both drunk drivers, one of them was my house that got crashed into. I've been seeing them use it as a raceway, and I believe you brought it up. There needs to be crosswalks up there. If there's speed bumps, something to slow those guys down, because it wasn't just drinking on that second one. Thank God. Seriously, I tell people, there were angels that had been working on this project, like, oops, no, that didn't work. Oops, that did, like 1,000 different ways to have that last car come through and not injure or kill anybody. The car should have never hit my house. If you went there and you saw the trajectory, my house is the fourth one, it's actually the fifth one over, but it should have hit the one that went straight through, and it would have killed everybody. That car launched, it would have landed on the roof. So K-rails, there's no crosswalk there. It would have at least slowed it down. The only thing that saved us was there was one palm tree in my neighbor's yard. The guy launched through, hit the one little palm tree, and it flipped around and hit, you saw, it was actually my daughter's room, how the back end flipped over. So I'm telling you, you're going to have deaths. And thank the angels out there for protecting the ones that have already occurred. It's going to happen, and you need to fix that other Montana. If you put the stop signs, all those other people that are working up there will no longer be going up and down there. They'll use Lapata, what they're supposed to be doing, and the residents that actually live there and the kids that really should be able to walk to school can. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Christy. I really appreciate all your time and effort into this. And yeah, just so you know, the trauma that it affected both me and my neighbors has been horrendous. So thank you for your time.
Jose Fernandez, followed by Terrence Murphy.
Hi, members of the council. Thank you for your time and thank you for the work that you put into this. I also live on Villaggio too, been there for almost 8 years. Longtime resident of San Clemente, about 30 years plus. And the same thing that everybody said here, to cross just to walk the dog or even to get out, I have to maneuver every single morning. Same thing with my kid learned to drive. It's every time she left the house, make sure you take your time making the left turn. It's really, and I have another one coming up in a couple of years, it really is a dangerous intersection, and doing something like this would safety. It's all about safety. So I'm here to obviously support the proposed stop sign and crosswalk. So that's all I have to say, but appreciate your work.
Thank you. Terrence Murphy, followed by Stephanie Dillback.
Hi, I'm Terrence Murphy. I've been a resident in Villaggio 2 for about 10 years. I used to be an ex-paramedic, so I know what happens. I'll never cross that street because I know what I'll look like when I'm done. I have a motorcycle, I have a truck. I almost got hit when I was actually coming here. So on my motorcycle, I've turned right. I try not to turn left because you do have to punch it. If you do look at the math involved in going 100 feet at 60 miles an hour, legitimately, if you do look it up, it's barely 1 second you have to get that. That's what we get leaving that neighborhood, 1 second. If they're going 30, 35, we get 2 seconds, maybe, and that's just a given. So that's just math right there. We have no time at all. And I've turned right before my motorcycle. I've had a car slam on their brakes and actually go around me and say, sorry, okay, I should have been dead. I've been hit in my truck. I had a big truck, a little bit raised, and the only thing that saved my life was when I was pulling in, I didn't even get to the stop sign. The gentleman that was coming over the hill was going at least 60, they said in the report, 60, 70 miles an hour. He was looking down, I think he was texting, I could see his face, I'm like, oh, great. And he looked up and slammed on his brakes and slid diagonally into me where he was coming down the hill, and he slid into Villaggio 2 on Del Sol. I was sitting at the stop sign, before the stop sign, hit my truck, I went up, and my truck, I thought I was going over, and then luckily it came right back down on top of his car, and I looked down, he looked up at me and said, I'm so sorry, and because it was his fault, 100%. And I had no time to react, because even if I had time to react, I couldn't do anything anyway, because I was just sitting there. I was not doing anything. I didn't try to pull out. I was just there. And I was still deciding, want to go left or right? I was just going to go to Walmart. And the only thing that saved my life was the step-up bar. They had to cut the whole inside driver's side of my seat out to replace the truck and fix it. The gentleman down before, I backed up over his car to get out of the situation, and because I didn't know if the cars were going to catch on fire. His car split in two, And the only thing that saved his life was the step-up bar, because then he would have probably been decapitated. So it's horrific there, not to let alone, I don't know what it is down the hill, just past Bellagio 1. There's also little nature-made speed bumps, so when you're going down on your bikes, I don't know how these guys ride their bikes, cars, anything. You have something fragile in your car, it's gonna break, because there's little moguls. I used to live in Marblehead, and Marblehead, they have the really gradual speed bumps. We have to have something like a gradual speed bump just to slow everybody down and get the point that there is a stop sign, because I don't think they're gonna stop, even if they have a
Thank
warning.
you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Dilbeck, followed by Jeff Harth.
Good evening. I also live in Bellagio too, and I reiterate, what everybody has said. I just wanted to pull attention back to, I know there's been a lot of talk about the speed, and it's a huge problem. But I do want to pull attention back to the natural features that really recommend this stop sign here. So when you're looking down the hill as you pull out, the curvature of the road just really limits, regardless of speed, it really limits your ability to see down the road. And as you look up the hill to pull out, that is, the crest of the hill just does not allow you much room at all. There's just not a line of sight. So it really does come back to, even if people are following the rules and going the speed limit, it really, we need something else to help that area, particularly with pedestrians. It's a wonderful area. People have talked about the access to the Ridge Line. I feel like everybody in the neighborhood gets out with their dogs, with their kids. I go weekly, if not, sometimes daily, to walk the Ridge Line Trail, and the access to the school as well, but there is no safe place to cross. And so that new crosswalk, there is the one existing one, which on its own is quite dangerous. I've been crossing in that crosswalk and had, a driver coming up the hill and ready to turn, but yielding to me as the pedestrian, as the driver should, with the blinker on. And the traffic behind them has almost slammed into them, which of course, then also puts the pedestrian at risk if their wheels are turned at all. So that, I think you really need to finish what was started with the crosswalk that was put in, finish it, give us the other crosswalk on the other side, going across Del Cerro, and with the stop signs, that will ensure safe access, especially for our young people in the city, to be able to access the school, the trails, the church, parks in the area, to access that safely as pedestrians. And that's it. Just reiterating everything what everybody else has said. I agree with wholehearted and have experienced wholehearted, down to the limiting my new drivers to only turning right out of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, followed by Bill Ruth.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Harris, and I've lived in Bellagio too for 32 years, and I've been interested in getting that stop sign all that time, and I just can't tell you how thankful I am that you're now considering it seriously, and we have a chance of getting that done. And everything everybody else has said is exactly right. What I can tell you is that in Bellagio 2, our entryway has the coming in and the going outside. And if you're leaving Bellagio 2, not so hard getting into it, but getting out is the problem. And the problem is, if you look at the picture over there where the stop sign west facing on Del Cerro is going to be, that's roughly the top of the hill. So as we come out of Bellagio 2, we're just below it. We can't see a car because they're going over this hill. They'll just appear out of nowhere as we come out. Now, I figured a way to get out of there, but it's not the right way, but I get way over in the right lane like I'm going to make a right turn. I put my left turn blinker on, and everybody's mad at me from the back. But at least I'm here to talk to you guys. And so if you get that done, that stop sign on the westbound Del Cerro is going to be the best thing since the invention of hard-boiled eggs. So thanks so much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Bill Ruth, followed by Amy Malone.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us a chance to add comments and ask questions. I've lived in Villaggio too, only 2.5 years. I've signed several petitions during that time, and this is the first fruits of that work. Like most people say, the downhill traffic is blind for us to see, and probably for them too at the last minute. They do speed. I dread going out anytime, and I do punch it when we go, even if there's no one there visible. By the time you're starting getting across to make the left turn, most often there's a car coming down. You put in there 2 crosswalks. Right now, there is no sidewalk there, so if you're walking a stroller or something like that, it's not level. It's hard to walk on. So that would be good to add that proposed sidewalk in that section as well. And listening to here, the cars that went through there, I think a nice big granite boulder or two there is pretty, would slow down. I mean, you can't argue with the granite. You can see granite boulders on the Mormon church side, and they're very handsome. That's it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Amy Malone, followed by Rob Wagner.
Hi, I'm Amy. I've grown up here in San Clemente all my life. I'm 56 years old, and I've lived in Villaggio too. Bought a home there over 20 years ago with me and my husband, and raised our kids and now have grandkids. I cannot emphasize more how dangerous a place it was or is to live. And moving back here into San Clemente and coming back home from living up in Newport Beach and, knowing the charm of this city and seeing it and with the population, and it's that business park. That business park just brings in a lot of people just headed off to work super early in the morning, and they're racing up that hill, and then they're exiting down the hill because it's a lot faster to and from the freeway. And I think there's no denying that. And there's no denying from any of my neighbors here that our street is used a lot by the businesses that are in that business park, which is just growing and growing. Yes, they should be using La Plata, but why would you when there's a quicker way to get to work and you got to be at work at 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9? I mean, you could almost do it on the hour. So yes, I just wanted to add that in on top of just the normal everyday of trying to get in and out of Del Cerro, of Calle Sol, where we all live. Also too, just trying to jet across with, our dogs and people just flying across the street and running with the dogs. And I mean, I've given it up in taking the grandkids across the street. It's just not safe. You have to run to the island, look. By the time you look here and you look up, someone else is coming. It's just too fast. I just want to go back to growing up here in San Clemente and this charming town with the population that it is. Growing up down by T Street, there didn't used to be so many speed bumps and going down to those communities and on the streets. If you live here in San Clemente and you go down to T Street and headed down to that area, I know all the streets that don't have the speed bumps, and those are the ones I choose to go through. Because why? It slows you down. So even as some of my neighbors have said, it's common sense. Some type of speed bump, something to slow that whole road down. Because you can't just put a motorcycle cop at the bottom of the hill or put on something that says, you're going 35, people are just going to ignore it unless they're going to get a ticket. And so I think you said it, it is an accident waiting to happen. And with Christy, with all of the accidents that we've seen there and me being there so long and seeing some of them myself, I'm just waiting for someone to get their life taken, trying to get across that road, or someone trying to pull out of our neighborhood and getting slammed in by someone just pure that's blind and you're going down the hill and wham. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Rob Wagner is my last speaker card. If anybody else wants to speak, let us know.
I'd just like to say thank you for taking this up, and it's really needed in our area there. That intersection is so unsafe, and I'm the one lucky person who hasn't had a car come in my backyard yet. The one next to me has, and the one 2 houses up has, and I've only lived there 2 years. So a guardrail or rocks or a wall or something, anything would help just to keep them coming into our backyards. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken that would like to speak? Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Commission discussion? Bart?
Yeah, I'd just like to compliment Zach Ponson and Ryan Kim on their handling of this, and good job. I thought the staff report was very well written and clear. It was a clear evaluation of the problems and good solutions. I am in support of the project as proposed, but have a question in the recommendation to move it along. Should we reference the Berkeley report so it comes back and that gets implemented if there's additional solutions?
You can include that. I don't expect any major surprises at this point. We're kind of near the final on that Berkeley study.
I'm just saying, anything helps at this point.
Right.
In these problems.
So
Okay.
it doesn't hurt to mention it in
Okay.
there. I mean, my fear is I'm going to council in 2 weeks, so the Berkeley study won't be finished by then.
Oh, I realize that.
It won't
I
change
just
by
wanted
then
to
either.
put it in ours that we would be open to including those things when they come. And then, do they ever put a speed hump at a stop? At a stop sign?
No.
I'm thinking on this one going
Practical ways.
down the hill, it would just slow the traffic rather than gassing it off the stoplight to get to Calle del Sol, and give a couple more seconds to the people, even after they've come to a stop.
So
So
what-
consider that. I wouldn't put it in the recommendation, but I'd like you to consider that if you can.
Okay, yeah, one consideration though is the steepness of that hill. It gets steep very quickly. So by the time you're already in front of Calle Sol, I believe it's already 6 to 8% grade. And so it's, and like we did in previous projects, we're really not recommending speed humps or cushions on any streets above.
That's why I was wondering at the
5%.
stop sign itself, it would just slow them down to, rather than gassing at the, slow down their acceleration a little bit.
It's not something we've done before, but, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Go ahead next. I'm definitely in favor of all these recommendations, the stop sign, the crosswalk. I want to do more. I'm getting the sense from you, Mr. Ponson, that you're not going to support more. But I got to be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed. Yes, I appreciate everything you've done. But, and you know, I've talked to you many times offline about being more proactive. How do we get more proactive, right? These, if they've been doing a petition for 3 years or more, and we could have done this I don't know. I just feel like we need to do more. We need to be more proactive. And now if Montana is an issue, that Loop Street, I would like to put this on some kind of a track where we can monitor the whole slope going down to Pico and Montana, and come back with additional measures as required to really give that community a sense of safety when it comes to crossing the streets or pulling out of their community or their development. So that Montana loop, and then just, like I was suggesting earlier, I'm prepared to recommend another stop sign down the street on Cerro, at Ibiza, just as another way of, stopping people so that it's less motivation as a cut-through. And it also, people after a while, they go, okay, there's another stop sign, I got to slow down. I understand your point system and all that, but I'm just a resident looking out for other residents. And so that my common sense meter is just telling me, we got to do more. That's where I'm at. So I want to definitely support this, but I would like to fashion in our motion further direction to you for monitoring this and continuing to look at it, and maybe it's in conjunction with the return of that Berkeley study, come back with some additional recommendations. Is that going to be received well by you? Can we do something like that?
You can, I'm just looking at my staff resources of looking at every intersection of every one of these communities that I kind of know won't qualify on a steep hill. I'm just not sure that you'll end up with any favorable recommendations at any other intersections on Del Cerro. If the neighborhood and the community up at that other intersection off Montana want to file a petition and start that process, they can. And we can educate them, they can reach out and we'll educate them on what we need on that. But if I respond to each and every complaint and analyze every little street based on a single complaint, I'm going to need.
No, I understand that. That's not what I'm saying, right? And you have a challenge. San Clemente as a city is pretty much on a hill. And we go through this frequently, right, with community members, coming forward with concerns about speeding. We're the ones that put the speed bumps down on going to T Street because of the complaints. We did that, right? And so we get a lot of these concerns. And so I'm just very much in favor of all the comments tonight. I'm so grateful you all came. I know this has been a battle for you. We hear you. We want to support you. So I sense there's going to be support for this tonight, but I just want to see if we can take it one more step, Zach. And I would like your input on what you think would be some additional direction we can give to also consider you circling back on Montana, and then maybe, looking at, after we do the implementation of the stop sign and the crosswalk, how has that impacted Del Cerro on the whole downhill? Is that enough, or do we need to take a look at it some more? Would you think about that and let me know what you'd be comfortable with? Because, we want to work with you on this, but I just want to make sure we don't just stop here. We may need to go further. I want to make sure we can.
And you can provide that direction as a body, and ultimately, just keep in mind, though, we have, numbers of other studies that we're already waiting in line, if not 6 months or a year or two to get to.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so every time I add one into it that we're looking at and then to squeeze in, you're pushing somebody else down that line further. And so that's something to take into consideration, though. So staff can monitor situation. We're always monitoring streets. We're always receiving those complaints and looking into them.
When will we get that Berkeley study? And when were you going to come back to us with that?
It'll be coming back for a receive and file in the next month or two.
Okay.
Likely 2 months.
Okay. And then we'll have the opportunity to see what other measures may be in there.
What their study is saying is these are the types of things to look at. Please look at a potential stop sign at this area and a crosswalk in this area. It doesn't go too much further than that, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
So that's why we're implementing and justifying a lot of what we're doing.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. McCacken?
My first question is from the eastern entrance of Avenida Vista, Montana to La Plata. Are there any commercial entities there? I don't see any ingress or egress until Calle Iglesia. So Calle Iglesia is commercial, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so as we say, let's travel westbound, as we go down and we hit Avenida Vista Hermosa, where that entrance is, where the stop sign is, are there any commercial properties along that roadway? Or are they all into Iglesia?
Commercial's all into Inglesia.
Right. So if we were to create a dead end or put, not thoroughfare, that would eliminate the commercial versus residential kind of conflict, right? This is just a what if,
Where would that be?
right here.
Oh, I see.
See, then the commercial interest or the employees
go around.
couldn't drive through. That's one thing. There's at least 15 ingress and egress points, along this street. So there's a lot of things going on. Even if we were to create, a dead end at some future date, because I am in favor of what's proposed here, doesn't it eliminate irresponsible people who live in the residential area themselves? Whether it's their fault or not. It doesn't also eliminate irresponsible pedestrians. My point is, by putting the stop sign there, we are giving some relief, but we're not really eliminating, the irresponsible. And one thing about stop signs, in my experience, you don't want to create a false sense of security. You're still going to have to your kids are still going to have to look every which way. As you drive, you're still going to have to look every which way. And I would hazard that in some of the areas that we've studied, it's actually the people who live in the area that might cause, some of the issue. So it doesn't eliminate that either. I think this is a good first step. This is one of the disadvantages of not living on flat land. We like to have that elevation. We like to have the view, or we like to live in the hills. It's the same thing, farther away from the ocean. We deal with this physical geography and topology. Some of the issues could be, this is an HOA, is this a HOA area?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so when we're talking about rocks or things that are out of our right of way, there are things that perhaps the HOA could do to also protect you, whether it's a wall or whether it's some physical feature that the HOA needs to, put in. But I think everybody, I will vote in favor, but I think, it's just really hard to legislate common sense, which means driving responsibly, being a responsible pedestrian or a biker. And, that also goes a lot of way to try to ameliorate a situation. But this is a difficult street with, 15 points of access. But I do agree, coming back at some later time, maybe with electronic signs. Up where I live, I think the electronic signs have, helped, but we don't have stop signs, but everybody has the same, issues that you're talking about with their kids. But it's just an area where people really need to be, responsible and call the sheriff out to, have a speed trap. And that'll show some people that, and then you might get an idea of the number of citations, whether they truly do come from the commercial area or people just are hurrying, go to work or going back to their house. So I'm in favor. But it's a difficult geographic, topological area.
Thank you. I'm in favor of this project too. I'm in favor of more enforcement, speed enforcement. I don't know if you can pass that on to the sheriff. I think we should have you kind of revisit and consider adding some kind of physical impediments at that T intersection, whether it be boulder or maybe a K-rail, a couple K-rails or something. I would suggest that, you guys kind of take a look at that. In general, I'm supportive of, I trust that you guys did kind of look at the whole length of it. And traffic engineering is it's kind of a funny discipline. Sorry, Ryan. But, like they said, like Dr. McCacken said, drivers get conditioned. So if there's a stop sign, and I think this one is well located at Vista, Montana. But if we added other ones in that aren't warranted, and even this one isn't warranted, but in the professional judgment, they're saying, okay, it's justified, okay? But if we add it in a bunch, then drivers learn, no one's ever coming from the cross street, why am I stopping for no reason? And then they blow the stop sign, and the driver coming out of the side interstate, they think the cars are gonna stop, so they pull out and get T-boned at a high rate of speed. So, traffic engineering's been studied to death. There's the whole discipline around it. And, sorry for that pun, by the way, or not a pun, but, there's a logic and there's a lot of study that goes into what they do and what they recommend. And it's not always what the public wants to hear, to be honest. But anyway, I'm strongly supportive of this project as proposed, and I would recommend that we, just so the public knows, we're not approving it tonight, we're making a recommendation to the city council. The city council will be hearing it. Keep your eye on when that's going to council. I'm sure Christie will let everyone know. And they're the final say, but we'll be giving it our recommendation, obviously. And I do suggest that you guys consider revisiting the impediment thing at the T intersection. So,
Would that be direction to work with the HOA on something? Because it is a tight right-of-way there. And
okay.
so-
I was gonna, let me just float this by you guys. Sure. My thought in a motion would be, of course, we approve the staff recommendations, and then we add planning commission additional recommendations. And one would be to direct staff to contact the HOA about the concerns and find a solution.
Hasn't he been doing that?
I mean, has staff, I personally haven't, I don't think Ryan has, but we haven't been on
Yeah,
this one for too long.
In other words, if the HOA steps up, cool. If they don't, then I want Zach to do something. The other issue I wanted to, planning commission recommendation is and again, you tell me if this is not feasible, but I think sometimes if you tell people of an issue, that helps. So if we did and I don't know how we would do this, Zach, but is there a way to notify those businesses that the community has expressed concern about speeding on this street to and from the business park? Please notify your employees that they're driving through a community with children trying to cross the street, and they need to, and ask them to observe the speed limit. It may be naive on my part, but I think sometimes people don't maybe always associate the fact that their actions have consequences, and if we point it out, hey, you're going through a community, there will be speed enforcement. Please, we encourage you to take PICO, but if you're going to drive through our neighborhood, drive slowly. So I don't know if that's worth it, but I always think that trying to work with people and give them the benefit of the doubt is something worthwhile. I don't know, is that something that you could see
I'm
being
trying
done?
to foresee how that would be done. A lot of those businesses aren't the actual property owners.
I
So
see.
It would be, like, we have property owner records, but not, you'd have to start going over business licenses by address. I don't know how that would be done.
Okay.
Kind of like Chair McCann's recommendation of more enforcement and pushing that out there.
Yep.
Because once the tickets start happening, and I'm willing to guarantee it's not all the business owners, it's the residents.
Understood,
too.
yeah, okay.
And once those tickets start happening, I think.
All right, so we'll do two additional recommendations to work with the HOA on finding a solution to the safety hazard there at that intersection, and then request additional spot enforcement.
I support that.
Okay. Does that sound good to everybody?
Doesn't the business park have a board? They do, don't they?
Yes, they should.
Okay. Maybe when you contact the HOA, maybe you can encourage them to reach out with a letter to the business park and maybe go to their meeting, find some way to get the word in there that,
I think the best route would be through the Master Association for Rancho San Clemente. There's one master HOA, and then there's sub-associations for each one
Yeah.
of these. And so if we reached out to that Master Association and see if they have contact with those other business associations.
I just think it means more coming from the city and you, and,
I think I understand the direction you're given.
Okay.
In terms of just having us putting in some sort of effort on that. It might be hard for us to reach out to each individual property owner.
Understood.
Or especially business owner, or their clientele.
Yeah.
And those types of things. So that's where it gets a little tough.
Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and try and float a motion. I will move staff recommendations. Number one, forward to the city council a recommendation to approve restriping Cali de Cerro for bike lane facilities. And two, forward a resolution to the city council for the addition of an all-stop and crosswalk at the intersection of Avenida Vista, Montana, as shown in the staff report attachments, with the minor revisions as needed to conform with California manual and on the uniform traffic control devices. I'd also include in this motion that staff include in their report to the city council the following planning commission recommendations. One, direct staff to conduct a meeting with the homeowners association regarding concerns of unsafe traffic at the intersection of Avenida Vista, Montana, and Cali de Cerro, with the intent of finding a solution to potential crashes in that section. Number two, direct staff to contact the San Clemente Business Park Master Association to communicate residents' concerns about speeding traffic on Cali de Cerro, requesting they notify employees to please observe the speed limit in residential areas. And then well, that would be my recommendation, and implied in that, Zach, would be you coming back with that Berkeley study and with the opportunity for us to have some additional conversations about that area.
How about 3 be it increased speed enforcement?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right, thank you. And then the third one would, on our planning commission recommendations, would be for city council to direct staff to provide spot enforcement on Cali de Cerro in 2 locations. I would suggest one, after the stop signs go in for observing the stop signs, and 2, at the bottom of the hill towards Pico for speed enforcement. Does that sound right?
I will second in a moment. I've got a question for Jonathan, and this may be a tough one. Would it not be more appropriate for code enforcement to contact the associations and tell the associations to follow the rules rather than the traffic engineers? Because they're not really set up to do that.
I'll let staff answer that. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Sure. I think I can anticipate the direction here that all of these master plan communities would have had some level of landscaping plan, and that was raised earlier, that there's some trees that are no longer there. And so there would have been entitlements for these communities that specify this is the landscape plan for this community. So something of that sort may have been anticipated when the development occurred here. If those don't exist now, our code enforcement could review those plans and contact the community to say that there was an intent for there to be certain trees in this location and they should be brought back. That would be an opportunity for planning and code enforcement to review those older plans and communicate findings to Public
Zach, does that work
Works.
for you?
I can follow that. Yeah.
Okay.
As a recommendation.
And then I will second the motion.
Right, so I will amend my motion on that second Planning Commission recommendation, City Council, that they direct code enforcement to review with the HOA their landscape plans regarding that intersection with attention to solutions for concerns expressed by the residents in terms of the vehicular interactions there.
And my second so amended.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Item passes 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you.
And thank you for your participation in this process.
Yes. I think we are too. There's no old business. Reports for commissioners and staff. Jonathan, anything?
I have nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Did everybody get informed on who's sitting in now?
Sure, I'll provide a quick comment. I think that most commissioners heard this independently, but for quick context of why I am sitting in this chair this evening and for the next few commission meetings moving forward, the city had a code enforcement manager position that was filled for a number of weeks. That's vacant now, and so with the council's interest in really allocating resources in that direction, Adam Atamian is spending more time with our code enforcement team. So for the foreseeable future, I'll be staffing the Planning Commission and our Design Review Board, our Design Review Subcommittee, to give him a little more bandwidth to work with our code enforcement team.
That's really nice of you to do. Mr. Chair, I have a couple updates, if I could.
Would you like me to ask them to go out? Or are you good?
Yeah. Well, that looks like they're wrapping up.
Yeah, why don't you? They're mostly moving.
Yeah.
Give it 30
So,
seconds.
just for everybody, real quick, Bart and I attended a webinar, a Zoom webinar here at the City Hall, thanks to Jonathan. It was regarding the state's mandates on the housing element and some of the changes that they're pushing out to cities for family units. And just to put it bluntly, it's more of a push for high-density, multifamily development. And they're asking all cities to put together design, I would say objective standards is the word they use, so that it would encourage development of multifamily projects in cities. And to that end, one of our senior planners, Sarah Toma, has, you can find it on our city homepage on the website, put out a community survey. And the community survey is asking people, what do you like? What is your favorite building in San Clemente? What is your favorite architectural feature? What makes you call it home? What are just our guy, so we could get some community input. And then over the course of this year, the summer, she'll conduct some workshops, and then she'll be bringing back to us some objective standards, so that we can bring our housing element into compliance with those requests. And so we attended the webinar, which basically laid that out, what other cities were doing. And I spoke with Sarah this morning. And as a result of going to that webinar, and asked her for her thoughts on her approach to, and I expressed the idea that, how do we do this in a way that we're compliant with state law, but we retain our San Clemente small-town charm? And she's very aware of that sensitivity in our community, and that will be at the forefront of whatever she returns to us with, is those kinds of, framing in that way. And that's why she's going to the community, so that that input can be reflective of what she puts together. So that's coming, and after talking with her, I felt pretty confident about that. The other thing I want to let everybody know is, as part of design review, Bart and I have had quite a bit of interactions with a project that will be coming, most likely be coming to us in the form of a boutique hotel on the corner of El Camino Real and Pico. They've requested one-on-ones with Design Review Committee because they're struggling with some requirements from the state to make some of their hotel units affordable, and they want to increase the density. And I just want to let you know that we're encouraging them to invest in San Clemente without going higher, without obstructing views, and we're I today met with them, and my advice was, please talk to the adjacent property owner and see if you can acquire that property and work your way into that solution vertically, not horizontally. And so just so you know that they're requesting quite a bit of our time to get input on that, and that was my input to them.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
No, I was just going to mention, Huntington Beach is litigating the state
Yeah.
for, I don't know if it's just their general, they don't have a housing element, or if they're pushing, I heard about it on the radio and also read about it in the Times, but it's kind of interesting that some cities may start litigating against not only some of the general plan stuff that well, actually, I guess this Bonta is going to sue the city of Huntington Beach, because either don't have their housing plan or they haven't implemented the ADU, requirements. So there might be some interest with, at some point, cities are going to join together and push back on the state, because more's coming down the railroad tracks. A lot more.
Okay. My comment is thank you very much to staff for recognizing Bart's service.
Yeah.
That was extremely well-deserved, and thank you, Bart. So with that, I'd be open to motion to close.
Move to adjourn to the next.
March 8th.
March 8th, 2022.
2023.
Mhm.
March 8th, 2023, 6 o'clock at the San Clemente City Hall. That's assuming there's no study session, right?
There is a study session that day.
Is there?
According to this, it says track it.
Okay, well, we're adjourning, the planning commission is adjourning to 6 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.